Okay, I realized that I'm like that can't be a cold open. Like that physically.
I told you.
Cannot.
There's not a cold open this episode. You cannot have a cold open this episode. It's not happening.
Oh, don't offend me like this.
We've exhausted ourselves for the last 2 hours, and a cold open, there's no cold open.
There is a cold open, and this is it. Hi, welcome back to Young and Terrified. I am your humble host, Katy Someillan, and today my returning guest, my first real returning guest, Gaby.
Hi.
It is the 16th ever episode of the podcast, and I just realized I forgot to say that. Yeah, 16.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
So, Gaby, how have your past 24 hours been?
Monotonous? I don't think I said that word right. You know what I mean. Monotonous. Repetitive. Okay. Repetitive and tedious. And are those the adjectives I want to describe summer? Not particularly. And yet, here we are.
So, what things have you done in those past 24 hours?
In the last week, I have done the same 5 activities every day at the same time every day. I wake up at 6 a.m. I go to school. The universe conspires against me. I go to the gym. I do my homework. I go to sleep. That's it.
Lovely.
That is the never-ending nightmare that is the next 3 weeks of my life.
It's just funny how you say, oh, it's the never-ending nightmare, functioning as a human being in a first world company. The never-ending nightmare.
You just said first world company. Do you know that?
I said country.
Capitalism is infesting your brain.
I hate this episode already. Well, I guess since monotony has taken over your life, slowly but surely, we are going to get on to the rest of the episode right now. As long as media has been around, there has been the phenomenon of hate watching. There's a lot of things to hate watch, and what do you think has to do with people just wanting to torture themselves and hate watch? What is your take on that?
Well, I think hate watching, I think it loses its, appeal if you're doing it alone. You can't hate watch something alone because the whole, sitting with, a group of friends and hate watching something that you found on Netflix and, telling each other the comments that you find stupid and whatever you're watching is, peak entertainment. It's, peak form of entertainment. I feel like if you watch it alone, you just get agitated instead of, entertained.
Sometimes I actually find, more entertainment out of hate watching something with, a group of people than actually, watching something wow, this is monumental.
Well, I think it's also because humans have this nasty habit of they love being mean to stuff. Being mean to stuff is fun. That's
so nice. That is such a nice thing to say.
Excluding the real nasty stuff. Not really. Humans are mean. Go on.
Yeah. So the thing about hate watching and what's made hate watching really accessible today is the internet, more so Netflix. As much as it has really great series that it puts out.
Serai,
sure. As much as it puts out really great Serai, what is it with Netflix putting out terrible, terrible, terrible movies?
Can this be an official call-out segment? Can I please call out stuff that sucks on Netflix?
Oh, continue,
all right,
please.
Listen, all you people that fawn over the kissing booth and say that it's the best movie ever, that they love the movie, whatever, get a hold of yourself. Okay, get a hold of yourself, reevaluate your opinions, okay? It is, at best, a mediocre movie. At best.
We watched the kissing
first
booth.
45 minutes of it.
I watched the whole thing after the fact.
I'm sorry.
with another friend. But it was a group of the 4 of us. We were watching the kissing booth, and we're like, oh my god, this is terrible. And we're like, there's no one on this planet, on God's given earth, God's green earth. They're both correct. Don't even talk to me.
I recall a very specific moment in which I had to get up from where I was sitting and gesture wildly at the screen to convey how floored I was this movie existed.
Yeah.
Some things are just stuff is just so fun to pick apart and criticize.
Yeah, my favorite part about that movie was every time there's like a kissing scene, they would use the same exact move in like cinematography in which they just circle around the characters, just like trying to create drama. Just like they would just circle around, like, you know that ride, like the roundup ride, the one that you're in the cage and you're in the cage and like you're going around.
Okay, I don't know what you're into, but no.
Stop. No. It's a fair ride. It's like a fair ride and like you're on like these little things. It's the Gravitron.
These were no.
You've never been on the Gravitron?
This is not what the segment is about.
Okay, no. But I'm trying to explain something here.
Oh, do you mean the little one where you sit against the wall and
yeah, that one.
It's not called the Graviton. What's wrong with you?
It's called the Gravitron. What are you talking about? Anyway, so it was basically like they put the camera in like one of those things, and the middle was like the two people kissing, and just kind of went around. And it would did this every single time there was some sort of kissing scene, just to like highlight, oh, this means something. And it was very strange because the kiss would end up lasting like 2.5 minutes, and I'm like, this is
first of all, ew. If you have to force meaning onto your audience by shoving cinematography down their throat, maybe you didn't do that great of a job writing.
They're just
I say that as if I could write a movie, but you know what I mean.
We could write a movie if we tried.
You have too much faith in me.
Netflix would pick it up. Like other garbage films they've made.
The type of stuff that I would write about, I think Netflix would pay me not to contact them again.
I don't want to know.
You know, a different contender, aside from Netflix, do you know where the other glorious wealth of hate watching comes from?
Where?
YouTube.
Really? Okay,
oh
yeah.
My God.
But like, what do you, like, on what level?
Watching people you hate do stupid stuff is
like
incredible.
Cringe compilations?
No. Like, there's like commentary channels. Like, like where you literally watch a video and you pick apart how like horribly unaware these people are of their own ironic tendencies.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm talking about like watching it's like watching a video, like watching somebody's vlog and watching them be so unaware of how cringy and unironically
Logan Paul?
Aware themselves. Yeah, sure. Fine.
Yeah,
Logan
that's
Paul.
what I think of when the whole like deal with Logan Paul was happening last summer. I guess I enjoyed watching that, and then I realized, oh wait, I'm giving this poor person views.
Which is why you have to watch it through a third-party channel. But there's
wait,
like,
what?
Like
Did
you have
go
to
to Great Lakes for that?
You have to watch it. You have to watch the video by watching somebody else's video critiquing that person. That's how you watch the video.
Then they're like, oh, and then there's a lot of levels of that, so it's like them responding back to that person.
Yeah, I also. That being said, as much as I love commentary channels on YouTube, I don't take too kindly to like reaction channels on YouTube. Those aren't my favorite thing.
Yeah, no, I hate those.
I don't like them.
I don't like them because it's blatantly stealing content
And
just to like give a face.
Yeah, and like some of the creators don't mind, but it's so like watching. You are profiting off sitting in silence for 12 minutes with an impassive face while a video plays in the bottom left-hand corner. You know what I mean?
You know those like when they're watching videos. They have the same face. Everyone has the same face. And we're just looking at it intently, like their eyes are like kind of squinting. They are not smiling. They're just like kind of a little bit of like a grimace going on there. And
like, but also wholeheartedly ready to give an over-the-top reaction at a moment's notice.
Yes. And like, no, they follow it like to like the beats. Like they see like the emotional beats in there and they're like I'm doing the emotion right now. I'm doing the motion now, but I realize that this is a podcast and none of you can see this. But
she's flailing her arms around. That's all you gotta know.
Like the moment that they see something crazy happening, they're like, "Oh, now is the time that I need to flail," or "Now is the time I need to scream."
Painfully drummed up, like over just. Point is, reaction channels, like it feels like the worst way to rip somebody off. Like, not even in a creative way. You just, you sit there and you watch the video, and somebody watches you watch the video. And then the government watches you watch the video of somebody else watching a video.
And then Russia watches you watching the... No, Russia washes the government watching you watch the video of someone else watching the video of it.
And then our alien overlords who run the simulation watch all of that at
It's
once.
like the 5 degrees of separation, like to Kevin Bacon, except Kevin Bacon is the alien overlords.
the people who run the simulation.
I'm just imagining like every scientist that's like running the simulation, except they're all Kevin Bacon.
What?
Which would make sense for all the 5 degrees of like separation between everybody and Kevin Bacon. Because like they're trying to make clone lookalikes of Kevin Bacon. He's just so many things. Just so many places at once. Where is he? You don't know.
Please stop. It's time to stop. I don't know how we got here, but the point is that hate watching stuff on Netflix is like it's just you critiquing stuff that you hate with a group of people is like such a bonding experience too, because I feel like hating somebody mutually is more of a cause for friendship than liking someone mutually or each other.
Oh yeah. Oh, because then like there's so many things like unpack and like unearth about for someone. Like, oh yeah, like you hate them too. It's like let's hate them together.
So we should overthrow the government. You should cut that part out. I just said about
I'm going to. I'm not getting in trouble with the government. Oof. I'm probably gonna take out the alien overlords part.
You should.
They know. They know.
You should leave the phrase "take out the alien overlord" part in the podcast so that there's no context.
I'll figure it out. So have you ever hate watched something that you ended up loving?
I don't. I think that once I make my mind up to hate something, it's very hard for me to like it after. Especially, okay, if I love something with like all my heart, but then I hear somebody else critique it, I immediately like, okay, maybe I don't like it that much. Maybe I don't like it anymore. Which is very bad and like weak-willed, and you shouldn't do that. But I, for some reason, like loving something with my entire heart and then seeing the general population hate it as much in turn makes me hate it too, because, I don't know, high mentality.
See, that's what's stopping me from going into Rick and Morty. No, for real, that is. Because, like, on one hand, you see, like, the fandom for it is, like, praising it's a great show. Then you have, like, the critics of that fandom. And you're like, oh, I don't know, like, these people are, like, they all seem kind of crazy.
But you know what's so weird about that is that it's not the show itself that's putting you off. It's the critique of the people that watch the show.
Exactly. And today, in this day and age, more than ever, we can have more opinions and stereotypes on people just because of what we see online. And, like, the small vocal minority who ruins the whole thing for everybody. So a small subset of people has ruined a whole show for me and a lot of people. Because it looks like a great show, and people have told me it's like Rick and Morty is a really good show and has a really great story, but then like Pickle Rick has like ruined it for me, and I physically cannot watch it unironically.
Yeah, like I think it's the fact that anybody anywhere with an internet connection could give an opinion, and then people could flock to it, and then make it seem like the norm, even if it's like the smallest amount of people who agree, makes it so that something could be ruined for you in like a matter of minutes.
I used to be, in 7th grade, a very big fan of Wholock, not Superwholock.
I was going to bring this up, but I didn't want to.
Oh, no, we're bringing it up.
No.
I was a very big fan of Doctor Who and Sherlock for the uninitiated. And as to what Superwholock is, I didn't really get into...
This is a cursed podcast now. You know that? Your file's going to get corrupted. The file that you keep this on the computer is going to get corrupted, and you're never going to be able to upload it.
Well, that's harsh. Yeah, so Wholock, I got into it and I was really young. I was like 12, 13. And
that's when they take you. That's when they take you.
Yeah. For
and
real,
you're
though.
Most vulnerable.
So, like, I didn't see many opinions on it yet because I was so young that I wasn't as active in those communities like Tumblr or Reddit or anything. So I really didn't have an opinion made about it beforehand. I just kind of found Doctor Who and I just started watching it, and I didn't know about the fandom behind it. So I feel like on top of the writing going south, because the writing did end up going south at a certain point, I started hearing many more opinions on the show that were negative, and that kind of drove me away from watching it, and I was unironically enthusiastic. I was like, I wasn't rude to anybody about it, and I wasn't like, oh my god, you don't watch Doctor Who? Oh my god, you don't like it? Like, are you even living? I wasn't like that. I was more like, oh, okay, like, I guess, like, some people don't like it, but after a while that got to me, and I'm like, oh, like, is this even worthwhile? Same thing with, like, Sherlock. When the new season came out, I was like, the season... I started watching Sherlock, season 3 had already come out. When season 4 came out, and I think we're, like, freshmen at the time, and I already heard all the negative opinions about it, so I came into a show that I already really liked, came in super critical, did not like it. I left it in, like, the garbage. I'm like, no, like, I don't associate myself with that anymore. No, thank you. So it was kind of weird how, like, opinions on a thing I had already watched, opinions of other people that were negative still affected me. And, like...
Along that same vein, I was part of the only one you didn't talk about, which was Supernatural, which I fully immersed and invested, I think maybe 3 years of my life into that show. So heavy, so hardcore. It was, like, ridiculous. It was the only thing, like, it was really bad. And then I think maybe the 10th season had come out at that point, and people were already saying, like, oh my god, you're beating a dead horse, 10 seasons, are you kidding me? Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And that comment was the exact moment where I was like, I mean, maybe it's not that good anymore. It's been going on for this long. And then immediately I just stopped watching. Like, I didn't catch up on the episodes, and I didn't want to go back to watch them anymore. Like, it started filtering out of my timelines on my social media, and I was like, well, bye, I guess. Which is really sad, because I actually really... Like, seeing stuff about it and, like, looking at it is such, like a blast from the past to, like, middle school and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of sad that I left it alone.
It's like, you almost think that the algorithm kind of forced you into not liking it. Just like the algorithm, the more you watch videos on it, the more negative opinions it'll bring up from it. Because anyone could say anything. It's just the algorithm will filter it out. Mm-hmm. That just shows that maybe the algorithm kind of profited off of you not watching it. Like... I don't know.
And it was like, I saw one post once that criticized it for being on for so long, and then it there was like a seed in my brain.
Oh, it was just one post.
It was like one, and then I started noticing more negative posts about it, and like that one seed in my brain was like fermented, and then it grew, and now I just don't watch it, which it's still running. So like,
could you hate watch Supernatural now if you tried?
No, I don't think I could. I genuinely was so invested in the show that I think that... That's not strictly true, actually. Maybe I could. It depends. I haven't seen the writing lately, but I remember being very upset with the writing for a little while before I left it.
Yeah, I think maybe I could hate watch Sherlock.
Oh, I love Sherlock, too. I could definitely hate watch Sherlock.
I don't think I can hate watch Doctor Who, or at least the Doctor Who that I saw. I don't think I could hate watch that, even though I did not like Moffat's writing after a while. And like, some of the plots were wacky, and they were just beyond just, like, wibbly wobbly time stuff, like, or whatever people chanted.
It was gimmicky.
Yeah, I don't know if I could hate watch it, because it's such a nostalgia trip.
Yeah. I genuinely think that Sherlock is a good show from where I left it. I left it a long time ago.
When did you leave it?
Maybe like the third season or something.
Yeah, season 3, although it has its critics, I liked it. I did not like season 4.
I never saw it.
It's not good. It's weird, because how, like, different things warrants different amounts of hate given to the watch.
I think, but like, surrounding yourself by negative opinions are always gonna, like, it's gonna influence you or not. I just think it's so sad that it influences you even if you already love it.
Now, I know this is the topic that you, Gaby, have been waiting for. And I know this might be a little bit...
heavy.
Yeah, this might be a heavier topic. So if you're really not into hearing about the mortality of people right now, if you're not up for that, power to you. I'll put a chapter time in the description to get to the rest of the episode. But right now, we're going to talk about something that you're weirdly into. I don't know how you got into it, but death. We're going to talk about death. We're going to talk about death.
Okay, you can't just say that I'm into death, because...
You're into, like, the intricacies of death.
Sure. Like...
I mean, okay, how else am I going to say it? Honestly.
All right, good point. I'm just, like, everything, like, the cultural customs, how it's viewed, like, like, Western versus Eastern, like, interpretations of it, its lore, what it, like, the stuff that it causes people to think, how we deal with it, and, like, the absurdities that follow it that I think are frankly ridiculous. This is not going to be a critique on the funeral industry, but it also, yes, it is. It very much is. Well, why do I, a 17-year-old girl, have critiques about the funeral industry? I don't know. I just do. It's very important to me.
Well, this past week, Miami-based rapper, not really Miami-based, but like he came from Miami, rapper XXX Tentacion died, and whatever is your opinion on him, he died, and he was 20 years old. And
looking at it from that perspective, not his character. We're just going to look at the fact that he was 20 and he died.
Yeah.
And he was famous.
And when you come to think of it, this is the first kind of major celebrity death of our generation, and a lot of people are dealing with it in their own ways. So what do you think about how we as a generation, or at least how you view mortality? That's a loaded question.
Yes. Okay, well, this is going to sound really like, this whole segment is going to sound really morbid and, like, I have no hope for life, which is not true. I think because of my thoughts on morality, I'm actually very optimistic about it. So, I think that you have, as fast as possible, as convenient as it can be for you, become comfortable with your own mortality. Just, it takes time, sure, but you have to get comfortable with that fact. It's unless you're CGP Grey, but that's pretty much how the world works.
Yeah, no, he won't die. That's the thing. That's just kind of concerns that he's just not going to die.
And actively advocates for the stopping of death.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That sounds really, really heavy, saying that you should come to terms with your own morality. And obviously, we're teenagers and we're little babies.
But it makes sense because after seeing X dying at age 20, like he even talked about, I think he had come to terms with the reality. I am a famous person. I could be shot. I'm not talking about myself. I'm obviously talking in the position of X. Yeah, he said like I could die, and like if something terrible were to happen to me, like he went on this whole entire like live stream rant about So
I think he was a different circumstance in terms of his mortality because of choices he made and the life that he led and stuff like that. So I think that has a different connotation when talking about morality in his sense. But I think that, like, for normal people, for, like, 40-year-old Sandra, who stands, I don't know, too close to you at Publix, she has to come to terms with her own mortality at some point, too, which is real heavy. But this is personal, like, my personal opinion. I don't think that you could successfully lead, like, a comfortable life without acknowledging that it's going to end. I think it makes people, like, obviously it makes people super uncomfortable because the knowledge that your existence is going to cease on this planet one day. That's just a fact. It's going to. It makes people super uncomfortable. It made me very uncomfortable for a very long time.
When was the first time that you kind of realized, oh, I'm going to die someday. This is going to happen to me?
You know, I have you just brought it up. I have a very, very distinct memory of, I think, I probably was like 5 or 6 or something, and my mom told me that I was gonna die.
Why are you laughing?
I just think that's so funny to tell a 5-year-old that that's dark humor. I'm sorry.
This episode's already dark. It's okay. It's okay. It's gonna get darker.
She was explaining to me that circle of life, everything dies. I think it was because a pet died or something. I don't remember. And she said, she explained to me that I also one day was going to die. And I remember just bawling. Like, I was crying so hard. And I was like, but mommy, I don't want to die. But whatever. Very a la Peter Parker in Infinity War. Like, I was very...
Oh, no.
You're going to have to put a spoiler warning.
I think everyone's seen it already.
I was very distraught and upset. And that's the first time in my consciousness that I can remember being like, oh my God, I'm not going to be here one day.
I think the first time I kind of like came like head first, like, wow, I'm going to die someday, was I got really into, don't judge me, Tim and Moby. Do you know Brain Pop?
What? You got, wait.
I was a really weird kid, and I really liked Brain Pop because that was one of those,
you watched it recreationally?
Yeah, because I was like 10 or 11, and I'm like, well, I might as well learn all the stuff I want to learn.
Okay, we both did the same thing, but I did it with Crash Course videos.
Okay, no, I eventually graduated to Crash Course videos. Don't worry, no, I got to Crash Course videos, but I was like 10 or 11. I was watching a Brain Pop video, and the recommended was like, ooh, it's like there's one on death. Like, that's weird. It's like I've had family members who died, but I'm not really sure. So we kind of went into like what happens when you die, and it wasn't really gruesome, as obviously it was like a kid's explaining video, but like still, man, like it was really heavy, and I kind of didn't know what to make of it. So for 3 nights straight, I did not sleep. I stayed eyes wide open in my bed, like, wow, I might die tonight. Like, that might be me. Like I didn't really understand that causes happen, but I knew people died in their sleep. I just didn't think of the fact that, well, I'm a healthy 10-year-old. I'm not gonna, like, I wasn't thinking of that. So then I think around that same time, my mom, I got also really into pottery. You know, like those like little, I was such a weird kid.
Okay, niche groups, go on.
And I was looking at it, and it said that pieces of it, if inhaled, could cause lung cancer. My family has a history of lung cancer, so you can imagine how scared this made me. So I made my thing, the thing cracked. The particles are there. I'm like, oh God, that is my death right there. Those are the particles that will cause me death. So once again, for 3 nights straight, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die of cancer in my sleep. And like, I was a very neurotic and anxious child.
I see that. I'm realizing that.
And then after like night 3, I'm like, I'm not going to die of cancer. Like, cancer's like, it takes a while.
Process.
It's like, it's a process. So that was kind of like around the time where like I accepted like, whoa, death. Like, I don't think I fully accepted death, but that's kind of the first time I had to deal with it head on. So,
I also think that there's a difference between like being scared of dying and then being scared of what happens afterwards. Because
I'm scared of what happens, like, afterwards, kind of. Like, I was, and then I stopped being after a while.
I'm not scared of, like, I don't mean, like, the afterlife or anything. That's a personal thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, the people who I know and interact with on a daily basis there's a 50%, oh, not 50%, but there's either you go first or I do, which is also if you have siblings.
Yeah.
But that's too heavy.
That's
we
too
both
heavy.
We both have siblings. Not
that
gonna
is
happen.
Too heavy.
Yeah. There's also your parents, which...
But...
That's another
yeah,
thing.
that's a totally different and much heavier and deeper topic.
But that's another part that you
Yeah.
have to face your own mortality and also the ones around you. So
Yeah.
people you love, people you hate, people you never talk to, somebody you saw on the side of the street, somebody you talked to for 5 minutes on the bus.
I don't want to think about that. I just explained how crazy and neurotic I am.
Well,
That's what I'm thinking about for 10 days straight.
There's the fact that everybody you've ever seen, known, listened to, or talked to will someday die, which is also a really crazy thing to think about. Okay, but the reason that I think... I don't have an unhealthy obsession, but the reason that I am...
It's an obsession.
Not an obsession. The reason I am enthusiastic
every morning. Every morning, we would meet on the 3rd floor of a building at our school. It's like, hey, Katy, death, am I right? I'm like, no, I don't want to talk about this at 6 a.m. Please.
Well, it was either that or capitalism.
Oh, yeah.
Take your pick. Not mutually exclusive. Anyway. My point is that I also think, aside from the whole big, scary, you're going to die thing, I think that how people cope with it is fascinating. Like, think before, like, pre-modern era and all the lore that exists in the world because people have to put their feelings about death somewhere.
Ghosts.
Yes.
If you guys could see the face, your eyes, like, it was like in, I don't know if you've seen Fellowship of the Ring, but when like Bilbo is like, give me the ring, and like he goes all like demon on Frodo, and Frodo's like, no, it was that's the face you gave me.
Because people have this like crazy need and urge to make sense of the world and how cruel it is, and they do it by making stuff up, by writing stories, by passing them to their children, by like purposely trying to scare one another in an attempt to avoid the actual fear. Like horror stories that you tell around a campfire and whatever, they're great. You're using it to mask the fact that there's like a greater fear in the corner, which is death.
It's lingering. It's there.
I also think it's really cool to take a step back at what you find scary and figure out why. Death is most of the time the root of it. It's just a fact. Like every Halloween decoration you see is probably rooted in a fear of death. Like a skeleton is just a skeleton. It's in your body. But if it's outside your body, that's a problem. And that's where the fear of death comes in. Most things that you find scary probably go back to death. And I think it's really cool to like remove your own opinions of it and just look at it unfiltered. And it's really interesting, like how we present things to people because we're scared of it. The way that teens and Gen Z and millennials interact on the internet, to me, is especially fascinating, especially from like my pro-death perspective, because like joking about mortality, your own mortality, has become like the norm, and I think that's fascinating. Like the way we cope with everything that we know is like, especially for Gen Z kids, because we're not adults yet, we're little baby teenagers. So the way that we cope with what we know is what we're walking into, which is like, government, economy, jobs, bills, house, mortgage, whatever. We joke about killing ourselves. That's literally how we cope.
That's like, and then 13 Reasons Why came out, and the jokes, even though a lot of people think, no, we can't joke about this,
2 months later,
it has been the most memed show of all time. I have never seen a show so memed more than 13 Reasons Why. Like, last year, everyone's favorite thing was like, they do like one
tapes.
Yeah, like if someone did one thing wrong, like, oh, like, this is your tape. Like, this is what your tape's gonna be about. It's like if I die, you're gonna have 10 tapes dedicated to you, and then one dedicated to my dog. And that's because I love my dog.
I just think it's really weird that like it's not that I don't like, I understand it's how we cope, but I also understand that the people who made that like a popular coping method are people that needed it, and now other people who don't, because they're neurotypical, adopted it anyway, which I think may or may not spell trouble for how we deal with things in the future. I don't know.
I feel like we have this whole kind of, I don't like using the word, but it's the only way I can think of it, kind of Tumblrized society. I don't like using the word PC. PC's a no word. I don't like using that word. We live in a very Tumblrized society in which everything has to be filtered, kind of, and everything has to be, like, certain things have to be blocked for certain people, and you don't know what it is. But some people don't understand that, and then sometimes that causes trouble, and you're like, oh, so we all end up trying not to talk about things. Like, we just don't talk about the thing, or it's a joke. But we never go... I can maybe count on my fingers how many times I've had, like, a real serious, completely serious conversation with someone. And it has been, like, brought to me that a lot of people like have a tendency, and I think including myself, like whenever I talk about heavy things, I have a tendency to joke about it because that's the only way I can function while talking about those things, and thinking about it is making jokes. And I don't know, like, think just like the world's just one big joke, and I'm just here to say the punchline.
That's my, oh my God, that's my senior quote. I'm sorry, this is unrelated, but that's my senior, I'm serious, that's my senior quote.
Yeah, so I hope you enjoy your senior quote.
The way that we interact now is going to decide, or it's going to have long-lasting effects on how we interact in the future. We're very nihilistic right now. I hope that bodes well. It might not. It probably doesn't.
No, but it makes sense because...
Which also, the fact that everybody's nihilistic now, like... Because there's a difference between we're all going to die so nothing matters, and then also we're all going to die so nothing matters.
Yeah, like there's two different ways of saying that. So
it's like nothing matters, so why? Or nothing matters, so why not?
I like that thinking. I like the second one. I feel like nothing matters is very much 2013. I feel like 2012, 2013, and right now is nothing matters, so why not? Because we are in such a terrible state. I mean, relative to the past, we're doing pretty good. But right now, it just feels like everything's terrible. And I guess that's how we're all dealing with it because it's the only thing we've ever known.
Which this isn't new. Like, people have been doing this, like, morbid coping mechanism every single time there's been extreme turmoil. Like, have you ever seen, like, a comic strip from, like, 1947? They're
hilarious.
Dismal, dude. Like, people make fun of what they're scared of because it makes it so that it's not a scary black abyss.
Yeah. So that's all. I don't like when people say, "Oh, don't joke about XXX Tentacion's death." Dude, this guy lived a joke. He lived a character so well. He became a character of himself, and he knew it, and he was so self-aware of it. So people are like, "Don't joke about it. Don't like disrespect his work." No, that's what he probably would have wanted. He probably would have wanted us to joke about him like crazy.
This is kind of related. You can cut this out if this is too controversial, but because of recent events, I am so solidified in my opinion that dying does not make you a good person. Like, just because you died doesn't mean that you get a free pass from the rest of society, which is...
That's a hot take.
I know.
That's a hot take. I'm leaving it in, but that's a hot take.
You really?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's fair for somebody to say, don't talk about that person, they just died. Why?
Yeah, no, they did terrible things in this life, and that's the only way we're probably going to know them. So, like, go for it. They're not going to get mad about it.
I think that's such, and that's so, what a bad way to think about death. That, like,
they're a saint now.
Yeah, it's like, not even that it's like an atonement, that it's just like, it solidifies whoever, like, I think that's such an awful way, especially because it excuses so much behavior that, you know, if the person was still living, you would criticize. I hate that. I hate the fact that because I told you I was gonna hit it, because someone has passed, you can no longer speak of them freely. That, like, removes all the autonomy of death. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go back to death real quick. Not that we ever left it.
That's smooth. Back on death. Not that we've ever left it.
The gall, okay, of the funeral industry baffles me. I need to put that out there. Listen, kids, you don't have to pay upwards of $5,000 for a funeral. That's ridiculous. Don't let your funeral home tell you that. I don't know. That just, for some reason, that popped into my head. People get swindled, like, because they're vulnerable, they're grieving.
Oh my God, yeah, no, that's like...
And the funeral industry is just that, an industry. And they want your money, and they don't care. Like, it used to be a family practice, which,
yeah,
you know me.
It used to be just put me in a box
the
and then leave me in the ground, and that's it.
It's like, my dad died, let me wash his corpse and then put him, bury up a plot in my acre, put him in there, whatever.
Yeah.
But now it's an industry, we're talking billions of dollars, all right? Because everybody dies someday, and you got to bury them, and the government made it illegal to bury them in your yard, so everybody got to go to a funeral home.
Unless you're the first season of American Horror Story, in which just bury them under a gazebo.
But you know what that means? That means money. That means that you will get cheated so many times. A cremation should not cost you more than $2,000. And yet, nobody should tell you it's illegal for them to be like, you can't see your father's body. But it happens. It happens. I'm sorry. It's
a double. It's always been a double. It's just a double. They aren't dead. So you can. That's what something fishy's going on when they don't let you see the body.
Oof. Also, you're gonna cut this bit out right now, but I feel like the funeral industry combines two of my least favorite things in the whole world: weird aversion to death and capitalism. Which you're gonna cut that part out, but I just want to say that.
Totally gonna leave that in. But yeah. So death is weird, and I guess we're not always. I don't think we're ever gonna understand it entirely as a society.
The fact that the ending of your existence is your society's biggest fear, I don't think that's that bad. I just wish it wasn't so.
It's kind of anticlimactic.
I don't want it to be so. Yeah, it is, and I don't want it to be so taboo, because it used to be that like somebody died, I cared about them. I'm going to spend some time with their corpse because I know that I'm going to be a corpse one day, and it's all a circle of life and whatever. And then you bury them lovingly, and nobody shells out thousands of dollars on an unnecessary casket, and everybody goes home not happy, but at peace. There. And bonus points, your body fertilizes the earth. The end. You know, embalming? You want to get into embalming?
I've never had someone ever tell me, you want to get into embalming?
Listen, I don't like embalming because it puts bad chemicals in the earth for an unnecessary reason, just because you want to stop the flow of time, even though they're already dead. And you want something to be pretty, even though it doesn't have to be, because death isn't always pretty. The end.
Yeah, so the takeaway, death isn't always pretty, but I guess we have to deal with it. And that's
face your own mortality. Try to, anyway.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back to the episode right after that. Hey, it's your humble host here, and I'm back at you with another housekeeping. First off, thanks to Gaby for coming on again. It was a really great time having her on again. And thanks for coming back to the podcast again, to all of you who listen again. We have a YouTube in which you can listen to it. So on the YouTube, you can subscribe, you can like, you can't rate anymore. Sad old YouTube. You can comment, and you can share with your friends there, as well as iTunes, in which you can subscribe, and you can leave a rating, which really helps me out and gives me a boost of confidence every morning. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at young_terrified, and you can follow me on Snapchat at Katy Some. That is Katy S-O-M-E. Also, new to this episode, we now have an Instagram. Yes, Young and Terrified on Instagram. That is us. Follow it. And last but not least, we have pins. Once again, that link will be in the description to order your pins. And yeah, hope you can get those pins and shows that you love a thing that's small and tiny and you want it to grow. So as always, this is Someillan leading you back into that episode. Let's go. And we are back. Thanks to me in the future for recording that break. But right now, Gaby, I have a question for you.
Pause, wait. Sorry for getting really heavy into death, everyone. Just mind your manners. I don't know, your feelings. Come on. All right, go.
But right now, I have a question for you, Gaby. And that is, if you could change your name, what would it be and why?
I'm really fond of my name, actually. I like my name, mostly because my mom picked it as opposed to the awful, awful alternative name that my dad picked that I'm not going to say because somebody's going to have it and then going to be me sad about it that I don't like it. But my mom won the coin toss and I got a good name.
It was a coin toss?
My parents coin tossed for all three of their children's names.
Oh, no.
Yeah, my mom won every single coin toss, which
she rigged it. She had a special coin that has... I think she had one that had the same one on both sides.
Honestly, real happy for it. Real happy for it. But if I... Okay, so the requirements that my mother had or my parents had for picking the names of me, my brother, and my sister were that, one of them anyway, was that you had to be able to say it in Spanish because my grandparents don't speak English. Most of my family doesn't speak English. We live in a bubble, basically. We live in North Cuba. So not many people here speak very fluent English. My mom wanted to be sure that if at the very least, my grandparents could say my name, right? So Gabriela, you can say it in Spanish, you can say it in English, whatever. On that vein, I think that if I could change my name, I'd want to change it to something like absurdly in touch with like my roots as a Cuban person, because assimilation is a thing, okay? And there's so much in like a name. Like you meet somebody and a name is the first thing you know about them, and depending on what it is, you could tell a lot. Like if somebody's named Patrick, I don't know, you might be a white dude. If somebody's named Sochi, you're probably like a Mexican girl, you know? You could tell so much in a name, and I think it's really sad that people feel the need to mute their identities because they have to.
Yeah.
It's part of survival. So I want something like offensively ethnic, like offensively Cuban. I want a name that is Cuban.
Like something with a Y.
I want it to sound like you're smoking a cigar when you say it. I want it to sound like a Celia Cruz song. I want it to sound like when you say it, you can see the Cuban flag behind me. That's what I want. I want it to be offensively Cuban.
So you want every single white person to have trouble saying it?
I never want to hear my name said correctly in attendance again. I want to hear white people choke on their tongues when they try to say whatever Spanish syllable is in it. That's really aggressive, but you know, whatever. My point is...
So, do you have the name?
Nope.
Really?
I don't know.
You can always do, like, a white name, but add a Y to it.
That's facts. Jessica. Boom. Done.
Yennefer?
Yennefer.
Is Yennefer your name?
You know what name I've always liked? I've always liked the name Marisol, but I don't know where it comes from.
It's vaguely Latino.
Vaguely? Mar y Sol. It literally means the ocean and the sun.
Okay, no, vaguely, I mean, like, you don't know what country.
Yeah.
But, like, it could be anywhere.
But
like,
technically, I'm not of Latin descent. I'm of Caribbean descent. Boom.
Boom.
Big boom.
There we go. Hot takes. Gaby. More hot takes.
More hot takes. Why people should stop taking people's names.
Well, Gaby, it's been really great having you on for their super, super big boy episode. This one I'm calling it.
Has it really been
It's
a
been
pleasure?
the big boy episode. It has been a complete pleasure.
All right. We talked about the assimilation of people and what it means to have their culture stripped down, but in a timely manner. We did that fairly quickly. We talked about facing your own mortality and death and the way that teenagers will have to cope now and how that will affect their coping in the future, and Superwholock. So
that's a lovely recap because this episode was probably so long that no one remembers the beginning.
I love, by the way, that in an episode where we talked about death, capitalism, and the stripping of culture from immigrants, Superwholock was somehow thrown in there. I want you to know that.
That sounds like my autobiography. But anyway, so thanks for coming on. Thanks for all of you for listening to this episode. But right now, I'm going to ask you a question that I haven't asked anybody yet. Mm-hmm. And since it is your second time coming on, last time I asked you, as a young person, where do you see yourself in the future? But as a young person, what are you terrified of?
In general. Not for the future, just in general.
Just in general. Because I guess we're all a little terrified of the future.
A little.
A lot terrified. Okay, a lot. I named it that for a reason.
Aside, we've established death is not the core of my fears. Corruption is. Corruption in any form. Think about it. Think about anything you love dearly, add corruption to it, it's ruined. In all aspects of our lives, corruption is like the seed of evil.
That's a quote. No, that's a quote, guys.
Hot takes. The final hot take. Corruption will ruin your life.
I don't think it's really a hot take. If anything, that's more of like a general sentiment.
Tell the government. All right? They don't believe you.
Well, it's been really nice having you on.
I sound like a psychopathic conspiracy theorist. I want you to know that.
I think we both low-key are in a way.
That's accurate, I think.
If you were to record the conversations we have at 7 a.m. on the third floor of our school, oh God, you would have a very differing opinion of us. Very different.
Alternatively, at Denny's at like way too late at night.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Oh, I did not.
We never forget about bringing 4 McDonald's
Good old 4 Happy Meals McGee
into a Denny's at night, which is something that actually happened.
I love that out of context story.
Well, it's been great having you on and great for everyone listening. And as always, I hope you all have a really nice day. Goodbye.